You're listening to the Limitless Leadership Podcast, the podcast designed to help automotive repair shops learn how to lead, coach, train, and manage their team better by sharing proven techniques and thought-provoking interviews from industry leaders. Are you ready to transform your leadership skills by tapping into unrecognized potential to achieve limitless results? Let's get ready for liftoff. It's time to go from great to greater. Here's today's episode.
Welcome to the Limitless Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Parnell, and today's episode is something new because we are going out with the old and in with the new. And the new is, as you might have listened, the Limitless Leadership Podcast. We're moving away from the Josh Parnell Leadership Podcast and branching out to a new focus. So the Josh Parnell Leadership Podcast, I can tell you it was a fun ride, but the rocket ship that we're on is soaring to new heights, and we are laser focused on the targeted direction. So this particular podcast was created to help automotive repair shops learn how to lead, coach, train, and manage people better by sharing proven techniques, and thought-provoking interviews from industry leaders. So as you might have gathered, we are moving our direction to a more industry-specific audience. Now, that being said, we know that the leadership principles that is discussed here does and will transcend all industries. So if you are listening and saying, hey, Josh, what happened to the last podcast because I'm not in the automotive repair industry, that's okay. We're still going to be bringing you plenty of jam-packed information regarding all things leadership. And so what we're really doing is shifting to more of a lens of the shop owner, the folks in the shop, but also talking about important aspects of leadership, three of which come to mind, which is effective onboarding, proper training, and consistent coaching. And we're going to dive into a little bit of each of those today, but I'll go back and share that regarding the Limitless Leadership Podcast and the direction that we're going in, we know that the key to sustainable growth and profitability does lie in the perfect synergy of leadership and performance. And this podcast is dedicated to helping aspiring leaders in the automotive repair industry tap into unrecognized potential to achieve limitless results. The key, though, is that it starts with people. We all know that it starts with people. You know it starts with people. And we know that people plus process equals profit. So I want to acknowledge the rebrand, which I just did. I want to talk about the decision to focus on the specific industry in automotive repair. And mainly because this is where the majority of our coaching clients live anyway. Now, that being said, I'm excited to jump into today's episode. I am asking respectfully for those listeners who have come with me this far, hang with me. I promise you, even if you're not in the industry, you're going to love and appreciate a lot of the guests that we have on. We're bringing some incredible guests on. And we're also still talking about a lot of universal principles that are going to apply to you and what you're doing, both at work and at home. So I alluded to earlier three important opportunity areas that really any organization in any industry can benefit from. And right now, many are lacking in these three areas. That is effective onboarding, proper training, and consistent coaching. And so I want to share some stats with you, An effective onboarding process boosts the retention of new hires by 82%. So if you're listening and thinking, you know what, I don't know if we really do a good job of onboarding. I don't know if we do onboarding at all. You think about when you joined your current position, your current job, regardless of the industry that you're in or the role that you're in, what did your onboarding process look like? And if you're bringing people on board, if you are responsible for onboarding, what does your current process look like? There's some opportunity areas that we can capture to ensure that the productivity of new hires increases. We learned that strong onboarding does improve the productivity of new hires by over 70%. And so what we see is there are a lot of team members who are pretty excited about joining a new organization. It's a fresh start. It's a new beginning. It's new grass, if you will, because for some of us, we think the grass is greener on the other side. And when we get there, it's new grass. We're checking out that grass, but we all know that the grass is green where we water it. And we know that 70% of employees feel disengaged at work. They're not engaged at work because they don't feel seen, they don't feel valued, they don't feel heard or understood or respected or cared for or loved or acknowledged, all the above. They don't feel those things. So they start getting disengaged and they start looking elsewhere. And this is where we can better ensure that we're going to allow, and I shouldn't even say allow, but really to ensure that our team members' voices are heard, their opinions matter, and their ideas are considered. Everyone is there for a reason. You know, we hire these team members on board because they matter. They're important. They're an important part of the team, and we want to make sure that they know that too. And so, onboarding can certainly help with the engagement. But beyond the onboarding, what does your training program look like? What do your training processes look like? What kind of methods are you using for training? What do your retention stats look like? It costs employers 6 to 9 months of a team member's salary to replace them. So if you're a shop owner and you're listening to this, know that it costs 6 to 9 months of a team member's salary just to replace them. And that's just talking about the financial ramifications. I'm not talking about the time, the effort, the energy to get the right person on the bus and get the wrong person off the bus. I'm talking about being able to effectively hire the right person and then onboard them, train them, and coach them in a consistent manner. The Olympics just ended. So we just had the Summer Olympics here in Paris. I shouldn't say here. I'm not in Paris. I'm in Houston, Texas. But the Summer Olympics just ended in Paris. And a quote that I love from a former a former great Olympian, Usain Bolt. He said, "I've trained 4 years to run 9 seconds, and people give up when they don't see results in 2 months." And something I want to share in regards to training is that for a lot of organizations, the opportunity that's often missed is they send a team member to training one time. And beyond that training, there's often very little practice or more training that goes into the actual game playing that they're doing. And, you know, football season is it's on the horizon. Football season is starting. I'll share with you the analogy of a football team. You got a 53-man roster, and the average football player only plays, on average, about 6 to 7 minutes per game. So you got your quarterbacks who are playing, on average, about half a game, 30 minutes a game or so. But you also got your long snappers, your punters, your kickers, your special teams players. You got your utility players that don't play a whole lot. They don't see a whole lot of action. But regardless, how many hours of practice are they putting in to get that minute or two of action? Or for the average player, you know, the average playing time is only 6 to 7 minutes. How many hours of practice per week is going into getting that 6 to 7 minutes of game time? In the shop environment is probably the exact opposite, where we are doing a lot of game time with our guests, with our customers, and very little practice. And, you know, it's easy to say, hey, I don't have time. I don't have time to practice, right? We know that practice doesn't make perfect. Practice actually makes progress. But we got to be consistent in the practice in order to make the progress. And consistency is the key. If we're practicing consistently and we're consistent in our actions, we're actually able to create efficiency and productivity, and furthermore create more time to do more practice, to do more training. And so when you think about training, what I'm asking you to consider is look at training like practice for an athlete. For an athlete, there's a lot of practice and then a game, and a lot of practice and then a game. For the shop environment or any kind of work environment that you're in, it should be the same perspective. You're practicing over and over and over again so that you can rise to the level of excellence that is needed for the actual game time. So when you think about training, just remember this too. Another quote, or another stat rather, I want to share is that 70% of training is forgotten after 24 hours and 90% is forgotten after 30 days. So keep in mind, when you send a team member to training once a year, most of that information will be forgotten in a matter of days. And then in a matter of just a month, I would say 90-ish% will be forgotten. And so it's important that we're regularly staying consistent on the training. Are we refreshing ourselves on the material? Are we practicing the applicable steps that we've learned from training? And then I mentioned onboarding, talked about proper training. Now let's talk about consistent coaching. So if you're listening, or if you're new to this episode or new to this podcast, Limitless Leadership is a team of coaches. And so we have leadership coaches, performance coaches, designed to help aspiring leaders in the automotive repair industry go from great to greater. And what we see, especially in this industry, is we have a lot of high-performing team members who do really well at their jobs. They've mastered these processes that has gotten them this promotion to a leadership role, but they've never had any formal leadership coaching or training. And it's very similar to going from a player to a coach. And we see a lot of people struggle to stay in the coach's seat because they see these players doing these processes that they've mastered. They see them doing these processes, quote unquote, incorrectly, or in other words, differently. And so they jump out of the coach's seat to go and save the day. They say, you know what, I don't have time to teach you. I'm just going to do this for you. And what happens is they're stunting everyone's growth and development in the process, including their own. And I know it's unintentional. They have good intent, but what they don't realize is that they have got to stay in the coach's seat so that they can influence and develop and grow their team members to be able to master these processes the same way that they did. And they can do that through the roadmap of delegation and effective communication, implementation of the one-on-ones. All of these things is something that we coach our clients on. And this is the old adage of give a man to fish and he'll eat for a day, or teach a man to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime. So we're moving away from giving someone a fish to eat for a day. We're saying, you know what, you're going to stay in the coach's seat and we're going to teach you to teach your team how to fish, how to lead, how to coach, how to train, and how to manage. Because all four of those are necessary, but all four are done different. So when I ask you, are you being coached? Who's coaching you? How is it going? What are some opportunity areas that you see that you can be coached on? If you're currently being coached, where are the opportunities for you and your coach to grow in as well? So if you're looking for a coach, if you're looking to go from great to greater, if you want to cast a clearer vision for your team and drive that mission towards the vision, if you're looking for time management, for organizational structure, if you're looking for effective communication across the shop, for proper delegation across the shop, if you're looking for effective onboarding, proper training, consistent coaching, all of these topics is something we cover in our leadership aspect of coaching. Of course, we also offer performance coaching where we can help you really get, not even you the shop owner, I'm talking about you, the team member, help you get in the business and help you drive that mission towards the vision that's been cast. If you're a shop owner listening, just know that one similarity or one difference between our coaching versus a lot of other companies is that we want to coach your service manager or your technician or your lead technician or even service advisor. And so we want to give you the gift of time. We're giving you the gift of time and money by saying, hey, you know what? You've got a couple people, you've got some folks who are capable, competent, and confident in being able to work with your team to help them go from great to greater. So if you're thinking about coaching, just know this. For a lot of us, we start with a small scope and a blurry lens. And if you're watching this episode is aired on YouTube. You can see me motioning with my hands. There's a small scope and a blurry lens. And through coaching and training and onboarding and asking the right questions and getting a shift in perspective, because with perspective, the way that we view things drives the way that we do things. Through all of this, you look up a few months later and realize, hey, you know what? That scope is significantly larger now, and the lens is significantly clearer. And what we see is that we're no longer in the trees. We're no longer looking at just the trees. We're looking at now the forest and the trees. Now, I'm not even going to say the forest through the trees. We're looking at the forest and the trees. We have a much larger vision, a larger picture, because we got to have a grander perspective. We're no longer thinking inside the box. We're thinking outside the box. We're stretching ourselves. We're getting comfortable being uncomfortable. As I mentioned, we're casting the vision. We're driving the mission towards the vision. We're improving our communication, which, by the way, is crucial to not only your work life, but your home life. We know that when there's a breakdown in communication, voids tend to get created, and oftentimes negativity fills those voids. So there are often 4 different conversations happening for the one that's actually happening, which is the one that I'm having, the one that you're having, the one that I think that we're having, and the one that you think that we're having. So the greatest misconception about communication is the fact that it's actually happening. So we walk through steps to improve communication, to make sure that we have effective communication. We pair that with the roadmap of delegation, and we utilize and implement consistent one-on-ones to be an absolute game changer in your shop. And we see incredible results from this practice. So I wanted to share just a quick 3-piece, if you will, of what can be discussed on future episodes. We're going to dive very heavily into onboarding, training, and coaching. We're also going to have plenty of individuals from the automotive repair industry being interviewed on this podcast. If you're a shop owner, if you are a change agent in the industry, reach out to me. You can find me on Instagram at @TheBeardedLeader. I'll say it again, at @TheBeardedLeader. My name is Josh Parnell. You can find me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, but reach out to me. We want feedback. I want to know how we can take this podcast and go from good to great. That is, if it's good to begin with. You got to let me know, hey, are we doing good already? If not, how can I go from poor to good, right? We got to start somewhere. But I'm asking for feedback. So from you, the listeners, I'm asking for feedback. I mentioned we're going to have amazing guests on the show. I'll give you a little teaser. Next episode, tune in to hear Chris Jones. He's the group editorial director for the vehicle repair group at Endeavor. He also has a very heavy hand in the Ratchet and Wrench Management Conference coming up this September in Orlando, Florida. But Chris Jones, fantastic interview. I can't wait for you guys to hear this episode. But I want to let you know, again, I want to reiterate this and emphasize this. Regardless of what industry you're in, this podcast is still going to apply to you, because leadership is everything. Everything rises and falls on leadership. And in order to be a good leader, you've got to be a good influencer. And we can't influence if we can't connect. And so we connect through authenticity, humility, and vulnerability. And so this podcast is about connection. It's about networking. It's about an abundance mindset. There's a lot of amazing coaching companies out there in the automotive repair industry. Even if you are a coach there, call me, get in touch with me. We're about collaboration here. It's not about competition. We can all go from great to greater. And as I shared earlier, 70% of training is forgotten after 24 hours. 90% is forgotten after 30 days. Even with coaching, those stats still apply. So we can always use multiple coaches, multiple perspectives. It's an abundance mindset. It's collaboration. It's not competition. So if you're listening, give me a shout. Let's get in touch. Come join me on the podcast. Your needs and interests are still a priority. You being the listener who is not in the industry, your needs and interests are still a priority. So please let me know what you'd like to hear from us on this podcast. At the end of the day, our mission is quite clear, and that is to still reach people and build leaders. So I want to thank you again for being with me. Thank you for being on this journey with me. You know, when we start this journey, we have an idea of where things are going to go, but all of a sudden we start pivoting and things start going a different direction. And we try our best to follow what we believe to be God's plans for our life. And I'm just so excited for where this rocket ship has taken us. And I'm excited that you're on the ride with me. And so I want to thank you for tuning in to the Limitless Leadership Podcast. Have a great day, everyone. Don't forget to smile today. Tell your loved ones how much they mean to you. I'm Josh Parnell, reminding you to keep leading well.